Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Kia ora, Bolt fam. It's the director. Chargers fans. Ooh, the hype is real, man. The hype is real as the NFL schedule was posted yesterday. The Chargers, dude, if you guys haven't seen the Chargers schedule reveal video, please go check it out. It's one of the best social media works I've ever seen. I'm not a huge anime guy, which was kind of the theme of the video, but man, I understood a lot of those references. Hilarious. Lots of slams coming down on our opponents in this 2022 season. That being said, man, it is time for our early Chargers record prediction and schedule reveal video this season. Of course, we're going to be spitballing, but it should give us a good idea of how I think the team is going to perform in 2022. It's also going to give us a good idea of what these teams look like in terms of their improvements, maybe some of the weaknesses that they might have this season. But my, oh my, man, it really feels like the hype is coming to like a hyper-focused focal point, right? The Chargers off-season and so many additions, probably the best that I've seen in my lifetime, is finally going to come together in an attack plan in this schedule reveal. So very, very excited to go over this. We're going to go over game by game, showing you guys some of the matchups of some of their best players, in my opinion, while also going over how I think the Chargers' new team is going to fend against them. Of course, we're going to have, you know, a full record prediction at the end of the video as well. And it's going to be it's going to be a fun one. I know we're a little bit late. Okay, I understand that, but you guys know how I am with my visuals. I want to give a nice presentation. We're in it for this one, baby. Before we do get started, question in the comments. If you guys could attend one Chargers game this season, as we're about to show here on this schedule, which one would it be? I'm starting to think the same thing. Of course, you guys know I like to catch one Chargers game a year, usually a primetime game. I'll definitely give you guys enough notice. See if you want to hit us up at, you know, Thunder Alley or something, we can get together. Before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. My way too early Chargers record prediction for 2022, as well as the schedule reveal. Of course, again, we're going to go week by week. We're going to show you guys, as you can see on the left side, some of the players I think are pretty notable versus these teams, and as well as a record prediction, as well as a score prediction as we go on. It should be a lot of fun, man. Visually, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Now, of course, week 1 home opener versus the Vegas Raiders. We're all thinking it, okay? I know what you're thinking. We are all thinking it. This is it's kind of a revenge game for Chargers fan, isn't it? I really do feel like last season we're all, you know, feeling the hurt from that very last game that kept us out of the playoffs. I think it's time for the Chargers to get back there on the field and figure out how to take down this Vegas Raiders team, which honestly did make some nice adjustments this offseason, grabbing a Chandler Jones, a Devontae Adams. They look a little bit improved on offense and on defense, but in terms of the rest of the AFC West, is it going to be enough? If there's one thing I have to point out versus the Vegas Raiders, it's that, of course, they did make some improvements. I still think their defense isn't up to par with the rest of the division. It's kind of weird to say because they did make the postseason last year, but that just speaks to how vastly improved the rest of this division has become in 2022. So that being said, I think the Chargers may have an edge here on defense, and I think we're going to say that a lot in terms of the Chargers defense versus other division opponents. Of course, featured by Khalil Mack. Oh, man. Dude, if I had one wish for this week 1 matchup, it's that Khalil Mack gets 1, 2, maybe even 3 sacks versus Derek Carr, because as much as it's a revenge game for us, it's definitely going to be a revenge game for Khalil Mack versus the Raiders organization that shipped him off to Chicago, maybe wasted some years over there. I'm not going to lie. I know they had a lot of hopes to propel themselves in terms of grabbing Khalil Mack. Now he's with a defense that honestly stacks up a lot better to fitting his skill set. He's got help with Joey Bosa a stacked defensive backfield. I feel like Khalil Mack's going to find some success out here, and I do think that's why I decided to put him as the guy, the cover man on the Week 1 matchup. So the Chargers Week 1 matchup versus the Raiders, I'm going to go ahead and predict Chargers 32, Raiders 21. And of course, 21 points with this defense, I still think it's a lot of points to stack up, but they got Darren Waller, they got Devontae Adams. The Chargers do stack up very well against them. Of course, you're going to see Derwin James on Darren Waller. You're going to see J.C. Jackson on Devontae Adams, but they're still going to put up some points. That being said, the Chargers in revenge game mode, I feel are going to stack the score a little bit. And I think 32 points is kind of where I'm feeling where the Chargers are going to end up. So Chargers versus Raiders Week 1. I say the Chargers are going to take the win in that matchup, and it should be a very fun home opener with a little, sweetness of revenge on the side. Here in Week 2, the Chargers will be going up against another division opponent in the Kansas City Chiefs, which is kind of funny because I feel like the Chargers, when it comes, versus the Chiefs, maybe struggle a little bit at home, but definitely have been showing a lot of moxie, right, when playing at Arrowhead, which is one of the tougher environments to play in, right? And I do think the Chargers, in terms of like one of the teams that should be able to step up and take down the Chiefs, kingdom, the Chiefs' reign on the AFC West, it feels like the Chargers have been maybe the best suited team of the last couple of years to really threaten for that. Of course, there's a couple of games that the Chargers have lost the past couple of years, but at the same time, they're very, very winnable. And I think some of the moves the Chargers made may push them over the edge. And of course, the Chiefs, who have been trying to keep up in terms of their roster, that Patrick Mahomes contract is certainly starting to affect what they can do. They maybe got a little bit worse this offseason by losing guys like Honey Badger and, of course, Tyreek Hill. Will this affect who maybe steps up into the number 1 spot in the AFC West? I think it might. But we cannot take this division rival for granted, okay? We still got to deal with Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce. They've been number 1 for a long time for a reason. But I do think the Chargers are getting ready to threaten the Chiefs for that number 1 spot in the division, and I think there is one team that is best suited to do so, and it is, once again, the Chargers. So I'm going to give this a prediction of Chargers 34, Chiefs 28, giving the Chargers a 2-0 opening to the season. And again, I think the Chargers prove that they have a very nice offense last year, which just got better with the additions, of Zion Johnson, of Jamari Sawyer. I do feel like the Chargers offense, in terms of protecting Justin Herbert, keeping him upright, did improve a lot. And in terms of what that's going to do versus a team like the Chiefs, it's going to give Herbert more opportunity to put up points. As for the Chiefs offense, again, 28 points is still a lot, but they've got a powerhouse offense. I still think that the Chargers defense should have enough to hold them down and give Justin Herbert a chance to win this one. So 34-28 is going to be your score, and that's going to be a very fun Week 2 at Arrowhead. In Week 3, the Chargers will be facing up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, featuring Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and now Devin Lloyd, the brand new rookie. Of course, I try not to put rookies on here too often, but I think Devin Lloyd's going to be one of the biggest helps on defense that they've had, in a long time. Now, the reason I laughed before is because if you guys didn't catch what the Chargers did to the Jaguars in that schedule reveal video, it's absolutely savage. Now, the Jaguars, in my opinion, they've improved, right? I do think that they grabbed some pieces, be it they may have overpaid by a lot for some certain wide receivers and maybe other players on their roster. There's no denying that they did get better. Of course, you've got Etienne, who should be returning from injury this season as well. Also being Trevor Lawrence's second year under center, I think he's going to show signs of improvement as well. So again, this is one of those games that I feel like the Chargers could easily maybe overlook. Do not do that to yourselves. I think that the Jaguars will be better. The Chargers, in my opinion, still, of course, much better than the Jacksonville team, but at the same time, this is one that you can't fall into a trap with. And I think as long as the Chargers play some clean football, they should be in a good spot to really put this one away. So I'm going to go ahead and give a prediction on this one of the Chargers 27, Jacksonville Jaguars 28. And of course, the Jags do have some weapons, again, some of them being brand new in terms of wide receiver, but I think the biggest threat to the Chargers in this Jaguars offense is going to be Etienne. It's going to be what they try to do on the ground, but with how the Chargers have stacked the deck and maybe improving their run defense, I don't know if they're going to be able to gain much traction. And this team, coming off of a horrible coaching season last year, I do think they're going to have a chance, or they're going to have their growing pains, which gives the Chargers maybe a little bit of a softer matchup as they start to figure things out here in week 3, okay? So 27-8, this is where the Chargers defense really is going to step up, in my opinion, and show how good they are, especially when trying to put away games like this one versus Jacksonville. Speaking about games you got to put away, I know, Chargers fans, I know the feelings and emotions behind this game. Week 4 versus the Houston Texans. This is one that we were really hoping wouldn't be a big deal last year. And I think this is one a lot of people were super shocked that the Chargers dropped. This is the Chargers' opportunity, once again, very much so similar to Week 1 versus the Raiders, where they can go in and get some revenge and just show people that that was more of a fluke than anything. I think that the Texans are starting to move the needle in the right direction. However, of course, you got Davis Mills, their quarterback, who, in my opinion, might be the guy they want to stick with going here on out for at least a while, right? After losing Deshaun Watson, Mills, in my opinion, he stepped up. And as a Chargers fan, it's tough to admit, but what my eyes told me is that he's probably got more than people are giving him credit for. I think that the Houston Texans might be moving in the right direction with this particular quarterback. He's got weapons. He's got Brandon Cooks. Of course, they're going to maybe try to improve themselves on the ground as well. But their selections in the draft this season also very promising. You know, especially with Derek Stingley out here, I think this team is going to start moving in the right direction, but it's not going to be in time to stop the Chargers. So I'm going to give the Chargers in this one the win, of course, 38-14. I know, it's kind of shocking to me. I really went with my heart on this one. I understand that, you know, there's some Homer vibes in the chat, but I think the Chargers are going to come back out here, man, double the score or more than triple the score of the Texans last season. I don't know, man. I really do feel like the Chargers are going to come out here, prove to everybody this was a fluke, and this defense is really going to start coming into form with Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson, and of course, Justin Herbert's going to get to work out there, man. So should be a fun one, and hopefully it turns out in a way where people were like, yeah, last season was just, something was off. The Chargers just absolutely destroyed the Texans in 2022. In Week 5, which is curious because it was the same week that we played this same team last year, we're going to be going up against the Cleveland Browns, this time at their home turf. Of course, this team looks pretty different, and I would say in terms of their offense, because of their quarterback, it's kind of rare to see a quarterback of the talent of Deshaun Watson go on the move. Of course, a lot of people know the details on that. Whether or not that's true, we're going to leave that on the table. Still, I think Deshaun Watson is going to be the starting quarterback Week 5. We got to worry about Myles Garrett. They've got a pretty nice defense to try and overcome as well, and then Nick Chubb being the featured weapon that the Chargers really couldn't handle last season. Of course, we did win last season, but the score was something ridiculous, just too high. So the name of the game for the Chargers in this one is to prove that their run defense has gained enough improvement that they can shut down a guy like Nick Chubb, and of course, you got Kareem Hunt out there as well. If they can do that, I think the Chargers could handle this one quite nicely. That being said, with the prediction here, I don't know if it's going to be as crazy scoring as it was last season. I think both defenses are pretty nice. The Chargers have proven that they can maybe stop the run this year with the additions that they have made. So I'm going to give the Chargers the win in this one. I still do feel very confident in that, but it's going to be a lot closer than we all think. But this gives the Chargers a grand slam, head start to the season at 5-0. And this kind of speaks to what I was saying before. The Chargers' early schedule looking a lot better than last season. And I do think this is going to help the Chargers tremendously in gaining momentum and finding their footing in the 2022 year. But the Browns should be a very interesting matchup for this season. In Week 6, the Chargers taking on another division opponent that looks so different this year in the Denver Broncos. And in this one, man, again, the Chargers playing this game at home, really similar to how it feels with the Chiefs. The Chargers maybe struggle a little bit at home with the Broncos. I'm not going to say they have our number, but as a Chargers fan, it's been hard not to notice that the Chargers sometimes do struggle versus the Broncos when playing in LA and or San Diego. So I do feel like the Broncos, though, as tough as it is to admit, this team is going to be a threat this year. Russell Wilson, of course, being the biggest factor for that, because I've always felt that the Broncos, after Peyton Manning, their missing factor was quarterback. I did feel like they had a really nice defense. I felt like they had young weapons. I don't know how this team is going to perform this year. I feel like they could be a double-digit win team, or they could be, a 7 or 8 win team, depending on how things mesh. Because Russell Wilson last season, at least in the view of a lot of fantasy players too, right, really started to show a decline. And whether or not this trade was timed in a way to avoid a decline by Russell Wilson or not is still left to be seen, right? If Russell Wilson of old shows up with the Denver Broncos, the Chargers are going to have a pretty difficult time holding this team down. If Russell Wilson comes in, he's showing growing pains in the Denver system, he's showing maybe a decline in his play overall, the Chargers may find themselves in a nice situation and taking down the Broncos twice a season. That being said, if I had to bet on it, I think the Broncos are going to be better, even if it's just by a little bit, because it can't get much worse than Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, et cetera, right? So I'm going to say this one's going to be tough, man. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a record prediction or a score prediction of 27, Chargers, Denver 30, slotting in the first loss for the Chargers this year, which is kind of saying something, right? The Chargers, in my opinion, should be able to handle the Raiders, maybe even the Chiefs in these first 6 games. But when it comes to the Broncos, there's just something there. I get a vibe that maybe this will be the first game that we drop. Still 5-1, a very nice record to start the season. I think the Chargers might be able to figure out the Broncos in our next game, but Russell Wilson, Justin Simmons, Javonte Williams, they got some weapons, they got a defense. It'll definitely be one to watch out for by week 6. In week 7 now, week 7, the Chargers will be facing the Seattle Seahawks, which, let's be honest, a shell of their former selves, right? The Legion of Boom days are long gone and behind them. Featuring Jamal Adams, DK Metcalf, and now Drew Lock. I don't know, man. They had another quarterback in there that they were talking about maybe starting as well. I do forget. But at the same time, I don't know what this team's going to do, man. I think this team honestly is going to take some time to try and rebuild themselves. They've got some nice pieces here and there. I still feel like they play defense all right, even if they don't have all the best, players in the world. But it's going to be a tough road if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, man. I do think, short and simple, this one's going to be a win column, another one in the win column for the Chargers, 34-12. I just don't know how this offense is going to operate under Drew Lock or whoever else they have out there at quarterback. It's going to be a very, very tough matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. And again, the Chargers, I feel like they've improved in areas that will very well counter what the Seattle Seahawks might try to do. I think the Seahawks are going to be a run team, right? Were they the ones, they got themselves a nice running back, right, in the draft. I forget which one. I think they're going to try and feature him, but the Chargers' run defense looks so much better. I don't know if it's going to be enough for Seattle to try and lean on that run game. I think the Chargers grab an early lead. It's going to cause the Seattle Seahawks to try and pass a little bit more, and when you put the game in the hands of Drew Lock, we know what happens. So 34-12 is going to be my score here, giving the Chargers a very nice record of 6-1 when going into their bye week in week number 8. 6-1, very, very nice way to start the season. Okay, and I don't know if it gets much worse here in week 9 versus the Atlanta Falcons, who again, the Chargers facing a lot of teams that are trying to build themselves up out of, nothing. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans, the Seattle Seahawks. There's a lot of teams that are in a kind of a massaging period right now that need time to sort things out. And I do think on top of all of them, it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons, who did go out there and grab Marcus Mariota, but we don't know, man. We don't know if that's going to be enough for Atlanta. And I do feel like, again, it's super exciting to see the Duck Bowl make a return, Mariota versus Justin Herbert. I think almost in every level you've got to give the edge to the Chargers. I don't see an opportunity here for the Atlanta Falcons to find any traction versus this team. They have Kyle Pitts, they got Casey Hayward, they do have some weapons here and there, but I think they just traded for Bryce Edwards from the Raiders as well. It just feels like the Atlanta Falcons is turning into the Raiders at this point. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. And so it's short and simple on this one. I'm going to give a score prediction of 38-17. Again, the Chargers just stacking the score, showing the weapons that they've got on offense, and that defense able to hold them down quite nicely. I do think maybe containing Marcus Mariota might be a little bit of a struggle, maybe adding a little few extra points here and there, thus that 17 score, but I think the Chargers should be able to put this one away so long as they don't let that scrambling quarterback get away from them. So the Chargers at 7-1 here in week 9. When are they going to start hitting that road bump, right? When are they going to start hitting that part of the schedule where maybe the director is a little bit nervous? Well, that's going to come here in week 10 versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Niners, I don't know what's happening with Deebo Samuel. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he stays with his team in San Francisco, but there's a big chance that he does get traded away. That being said, they still got George Kittle. They got weapons. They love their run game. Is it going to be Trey Lance? Is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo? We don't know, but the one thing we do know is that defense in San Francisco is pretty lethal, of course, led by Nick Bosa. This could lead the Chargers and the San Francisco 49ers to playing maybe a lower scoring game, because we've seen the Niners take down some pretty talented teams without having to put up a bunch of points. So I would view this one as heavily defensive oriented, and I'm going to give this one a score of Chargers 17, Niners 23. Another loss in the column there, but again, I do think the Chargers at 7-2 are looking pretty nice at this point. Moving on here to week 11, the Chargers will be coming back to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, we got our brand new addition there of Gerald Everett on the right side. Pretty much the same thing like we said before, but this time the Chargers hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, Kansas City, one of those teams that the Chargers kind of struggle to contain at home for whatever reason. I do think the Chargers walk away with at least one win this season, but I'm not sure if we're going to get away with two. This will be a big statement game for the Chargers. If the Chargers in some way, shape, or form can sweep the Chiefs, I think this may lead to the Chargers taking the number one spot in the AFC West. That being said, though, I still do think the Chiefs take this one. Chargers 27, Kansas City 31. Maybe by this time, the Chargers have figured out Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce a little bit better in the version that we're going to see in 2022, but this will definitely be a big one. If the Chargers can sweep the Chiefs, it's a huge statement. At the same time, I'm just going to have to go with my gut here and say that maybe the Chiefs do take one. The Chiefs go 1-1. Next up here in week 12, we've got the Chargers versus the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a strange one, right? There's a whole bunch of weirdness going on around the Cardinals team with Kyler Murray maybe not, happy with his current contract. Does he sit out? We don't know. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be suspended. I'm pretty sure he'll be back by this point in the season, but is that going to affect his play? And then J.J. Watt making a return from injury as well. Is he going to be playing, even close to that elite version of himself from a couple of years ago? We'll have to wait and see. So a lot of things kind of left and right where we're just not sure what this Cardinals team is going to look like in 2022. But I do think, once again, the biggest factor for the Chargers is going to be containing Kyler Murray. If we can find a guy out there that's nice and fast that can keep Kyler Murray in the pocket, especially with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack coming after him, I think the Chargers got a good shot at this. And again, this pass rush is going to come into play a lot this season, especially when it comes to these scrambling quarterbacks. So I don't know. This one is kind of up in the air for me. I think gut feeling, I'm going to say the Chargers do take this one. Chargers 31 to Arizona 17. I think a lot really depends on what they're going to do on offense. If, DeAndre Hopkins and those other weapons they have out there put up some points, maybe it becomes more of a shootout. If the Chargers defense, which again features Derwin James, J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr., now Bryce Callahan, if that team really gels and that defensive back unit really comes together, I don't know how, other than running it with Kyler Murray, the Cardinals are going to move the ball on this team. So I like it a lot, man. 31-17 Chargers, 8-3 going into week 13, which is another matchup with the Vegas Raiders. This one should be fun, man. I think the Chargers at this point of the season really finding their footing in terms of their brand new defense. I think at this point the Raiders, with their new coaching, with their new players, have found their footing as well. When I say fun, I do mean challenging, but it should be a very good football game this time at their stadium in Vegas. And this would be one that would be so satisfying for the Chargers to go in and crush the hopes of Raiders fans and really try and prove that the Raiders, as improved as they are, cannot sniff the Chargers at this point. The Chargers just too loaded on both sides of the roster. So I'm going to give this one a prediction of 28-24. It should be a fun game, a close game, but a statement game, just like I said about the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chargers can go in here. I think they can sweep one team. I think it's going to be the Raiders. And it, again, kind of puts the Raiders in a bad position when it comes to facing, because they're going to have to face the Chiefs and the Broncos as well. It kind of really depends on how they perform there, but I think this may push the Raiders even further down the board in the AFC West, which would be super satisfying. If the Chargers, again, at this point in the season, maybe you're not talking, oh, we knocked them out of the playoffs, but if we can push them further into the basement of the AFC West, that would make me very happy. This puts the Chargers at 9-3, looking very strong going into the last month of the schedule. Here at week 14, the Chargers are going to be facing the Miami Dolphins, which has a lot of new faces, right? A vastly improved team. There's not even players here that's listed like Teron Armstead, et cetera, et cetera. They got a brand new addition to Tyreek Hill. They still got Xavier Howard. They got Tua Tagovailoa. But the reason I'm super excited about this one, it's the Tua versus Justin Herbert matchup. I will say that I still like Tua Tagovailoa, okay? I really do. I'm a fan. I've liked him since Alabama. Maybe some bias there, whatever. I'm a fan of Tua. But the fact of the matter is, the Dolphins dropped the ball in passing on Justin Herbert, and this is a game that I feel is going to heavily reflect that. When it comes to stories in the NFL, this is one of the hottest since their draft class, and I think a statement is going to be made. Tyreek Hill, yes, a speed demon, a guy that was so hard to contain when paired up with Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if I'm as scared of him when he's got Tua Tagovailoa throwing him the ball. There was a video posted on Twitter a couple of days ago of, look at this bomb from Tua to Hill. Hill had to like slow down 5 or 10 yards in order to let the ball catch up to him. And if that's considered a bomb, then I'm not too concerned about the deep ball when it comes to the Hill-Tua matchup right there. Sure, I think Tyreek Hill can take a slant. He can take a drag all the way to the house, which is definitely going to be a threat in this one. I do think that that's maybe how they put up some of the points in this prediction here. But in terms of just our defense, so stacked up, so loaded, we know how to contain Tyreek Hill if we've got the right matchup out there. JC Jackson, ASJ, et cetera, et cetera. We've got the pass rush, and we do have, in my opinion, a better offense. They've got some speedsters out there, just not a guy with a big enough cannon to really utilize that deep part of the field. And this is kind of the yin-yang, right? I feel like the Dolphins may be better suited with a Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams, who have, you know, the means to get open and the means to go after those 50-50 balls, whereas the Chargers with Justin Herbert would be better suited with Tyreek Hill and even a Jalen Waddle. Kind of strange how they're flipped, but it really does strengthen the Chargers, give the Chargers the edge, because, you know, Justin Herbert will have some speed out there, and Jalen Guyton, maybe another guy on the roster that emerges, but at the same time, it should be a statement game and maybe a closing statement to the Tua versus Herbert argument. I'm giving this one a crazy one, dude. I think the Chargers have that one game a season where they just pop off like crazy. I'm going to put it up against the Dolphins here. Chargers 42. Dolphins 16, putting the Chargers at 10-3. This would be a really fun one to see. Next at week 15, the Chargers facing another somewhat confusing team in the Tennessee Titans, who have looked like playoff contenders for the most part the past couple of seasons, but last year, I don't know if it was the absence of Derrick Henry, I don't know if it was the quarterback play, I don't know if it was the lack of pass rush or whatever on defense. They just kind of looked like a fringe playoff team to me, and I don't know how they're going to look this year. Of course, they don't have Julio Jones, they don't have AJ Brown anymore. It's now the Treylon Burks show. This team is really going to depend on how well that run is performing by this time in week 15, right? Derrick Henry is the heart and soul of this offense. I'm still nervous about him, even though the Chargers have very much so improved on the versus the run. Derrick Henry is one of those outliers where you're like, man, it's going to be tough no matter what. So if the Chargers can hold down Derrick Henry, if they can limit what Ryan Tannehill can do, which maybe at this point Malik Willis is a starter, who knows? I think the Chargers defense definitely could be able to step up in this one and limit what the Tennessee Titans are allowed to do in terms of offense. In terms of our offense, I think the Chargers, again, have more than what it takes to handle the Tennessee Titans defense. I'm going to give this one a score prediction of Chargers 28, Tennessee Titans 17. I think both touchdowns come off the back of Derrick Henry, but I don't know if I believe enough in Ryan Tannehill to go out there and win the game for the Tennessee Titans. Maybe Malik Willis starts in the middle of the season as one of those outlier quarterbacks too. I'm just not quite sure. And then Treylon Burks, rookie wide receiver, having to carry that role. I do think he's going to have a nice season, season, but I just don't know if he has the quarterback to really wrap him and give him a nice rookie, season to start out his young career. So Chargers at 11-3 at this point, looking very, very nice going into week 16, which again, it's another one of those opponents that maybe makes me a little bit nervous. The Indianapolis Colts. The Colts to me are such a weird team. Again, we're playing a lot of weird teams to me this season where it's just kind of like we don't know what's going to happen, right? The Colts to me are a fantastic football team outside of quarterback. They went out there and got Matt Ryan. And this feels a lot like when they went out and got Phillip Rivers. Chargers fans were, paying very close attention to Phillip Rivers and trying to extend his career out in Indianapolis. And they did fairly well, right? I think this could be somewhat of a similar situation where Matt Ryan is good. He's able, even in his twilight years, able to carry the offense just enough where he can let Jonathan Taylor get to work. But then again, maybe not. Who knows? I think the Falcons were in a much worse situation than the Colts are in. So I think Matt Ryan's life got a lot easier. It may allow him to go out there and clutch some games, but it really just kind of depends, right? I like the Colts roster a lot. I think their defense is very nice. I think their offensive line is one of the best in the league. I think Jonathan Taylor is very talented. That being said, as strong as they are, it just comes down to Matt Ryan again, right? Can Matt Ryan go out there and win a football game if they're trailing and Jonathan Taylor's getting stuffed? I don't know if that'll be the case. And I think that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting as a Chargers fan in this matchup. I'm going to give the Chargers a win in this one, 21-14. A lot of defensive play out here, but ultimately I'm not quite sure about Matt Ryan. So these week 16 and week 15 matchups versus the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts are going to be a very big test of whether or not the Chargers did enough to improve their run defense. And if they did, I think these ones will be very, very winnable. Again, a lot of it has to do with their quarterback play. If Matt Ryan or Ryan Tannehill can't get the job done, I think the Chargers should be able to take that Justin Herbert advantage to the bank and add another win to the column there. Next up, second to last game. This may be one of the biggest games of the season, regardless of team. One of the biggest matchups, one of the biggest stories in the NFL, the Chargers versus the Los Angeles Rams. This is going to be huge. And it's definitely one that I know a lot of people in Los Angeles are excited and anticipant to see. But Chargers fans should be a little bit nervous. This most recent Super Bowl champions, they're loaded, right? They're loaded on both sides of the ball. They got Aaron Donald. They got Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and that's just on the surface. They prove that they got the coaching to go all the way to the big game and take it. And this would be one, again, that a lot of people have been dubbing the battle for Los Angeles. And it could be one that helps win the market for either team. Both these teams relatively new to the demographic are trying to get a grip on the fandom. It's a big story. It really is. And it's one that, again, if I could win one game this season, if I can go in and wave a magic wand and say, hey, the Chargers, no matter what, are going to win this game, it would be versus the Rams for several different reasons, not just because of the Super Bowl champs, but because, of a huge statement for the city. It's going to be a tough one, man. And again, a lot of it's going to come down to pass protection. If we can get to Matthew Stafford, maybe he gets us an edge, but we have to be able to protect Justin Herbert versus maybe the best player in football in Aaron Donald. They've got a super-powered offense featuring Cooper Kupp, who is the best, Super Bowl MVP, one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in football. Tough matchup. I'm going to give this one a prediction of Chargers 31, Rams 38. I think it's going to be one of those games that people walk away from in this season remembering as a very good one. The Chargers being in striking distance of, maybe tying and trying to go in there and win it. But again, very tough matchup. I'm hoping, again, if the Chargers have gained enough traction by week 17 that they can go in, make a statement by defeating the Los Angeles Rams and making themselves one of the biggest threats in the postseason. But still, this will put the Chargers at 12-4, a very nice record so far before going into our last matchup of the season versus the Denver Broncos. I'm going to put Keenan twice in there because Keenan, so good versus the Broncos. And we're going to go ahead and keep the score prediction on top here. Again, Russell Wilson, Justin Simmons, Javonte Williams, this time at Mile High. Like I said before, Chargers seem to do well at Mile High, whether it be, because we do worse at home. I don't know what the difference is there, but Keenan Allen always scores on the Broncos in Mile High, and I do think he does it again, and I do think the Chargers in this game, in the back of my mind when I was thinking about it, I think the Chargers get enough of a lead that they can start really leaning on their run, and I think we're going to see a nice game by Isaiah Spiller. Excuse me. I think we're going to see a nice game by Austin Eckler. I think we're going to see a nice game by our tight ends. I think the Chargers put up a lot of points in this one, and again, the Chargers at this point, I'm hoping that their defense, before going into the postseason, so solidified, so proven that they have themselves a nice close to the regular season. Chargers 34, Denver 23, giving the Chargers a final record of 13-4 in the 2022 season. A very strong record that should prove at least competitive for the AFC #1 spot. But I think without a doubt in my mind, the Chargers are one of the biggest threats to go into the postseason, especially with the adjustment with wild card spots. So I like it a lot, man. I know a very long video today, but some of my favorites to do at the top of the season, really just kind of put a bow on everything that we've done this off season, see if things in my mind are starting to gel together, things in my mind are going to work in terms of what we've added and what we've lost. The Chargers just look so much better in 2022, and specifically that defense. So that's going to be my record prediction, 13-4. In the comment section below, guys, please let me know some of your predictions in terms of the records, some of these games, some of these players that might stand out. Let me know. It should be a good time. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you did enjoy this content, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty. 13-4, man. That would make me a very happy Chargers fan.